Hey bros, so I don't want to alarm anyone, but I think my channel might almost have some integrity, because for the first time ever, I scripted a video, recorded it, and then decided to do it again because I realised it wasn't that good. Basically, the problem with the video is that I sort of didn't realise what my point was until I'd finished talking about it, and then realised I hadn't made my point very clear. But don't worry, I'm not going to become too good, because I will be eating fish fingers during this, and will, still be clickbaiting. Anyway, I watched a video about ContraPoints, and her video about how to identify a Nazi, and it was one of those stupid videos that says ContraPoints is anti-free speech, which is stupid because ContraPoints fucking loves free speech, so much that as someone who actually does hate free speech, I dislike ContraPoints because she likes free speech. But what really annoyed me about this video is that it tries to argue that Contra was a hypocrite because she, on the one hand, critiqued ironic Nazism, but then she herself, in that video, dressed up like a Nazi. So doesn't this make her a hypocrite? Of course, other people like Richard Coughlin and Mitchell and Webb have also parodied Nazis as well. So I just want to clarify this because, why not? There's a difference between parodying Nazism and ironic Nazism. When parodying Nazism, Nazis are the butt of the joke. Nazis don't like being parodied. However, ironic Nazism is simply stating a Nazi belief, but ironically. And you can see how this wouldn't be disliked by Nazis, because Nazis aren't the butt of the joke. If I say gas the kikes, then the Nazis aren't going to be offended. Jews will be offended. In fact, Nazis will love the joke because it offends Jews, and centrists will love the joke because it's good when you offend people, because thinking about the implications of the words you say is for anti-free speech cucks. Nazis aren't going to get annoyed if you spread Nazi rhetoric ironically, because at the end of the day, you're still just spreading Nazi rhetoric. Because there's no internal critique of what you're saying. That's the difference between parody and irony, really. Parody is doing something to critique it, whereas irony is just doing something that you don't really mean as a joke. The problem with PewDiePie is that many fascists will tell you he's their guy, and he hasn't made it clear he isn't. In addition, even if he did denounce fascism, this wouldn't necessarily prove anything, because any fascist worth their salt will denounce fascism. This is proven by the fact that people who have denounced fascism are still sometimes loved by fascists, because the fascists understand that fascists denounce fascism. So do anti-fascists. The only people who don't understand this seem to be the true believers and useful idiots in the centre who occupy the rational skeptic middle ground between fascism and anti-fascism. So what we need from people who denounce fascism is not just denouncing fascism in name and then continuing to behave in ways that are welcoming to fascists. We need an explanation of why fascism is wrong. And that might sound ridiculous, but that's where society is at right now. We're generally at a point where mainstream YouTubers really ought to be explaining to their fans that it's not good to become fascist. And what's more, I think we're at a point where if these mainstream YouTubers did that, the reaction would be more than a dent in their like to dislike ratio, because that's where we currently are. Because in reality, people are going to end up stumbling across Merchant Minute compilations and agreeing with them. They're going to go down that rabbit hole, and to demonstrate why, I'm going to use the analogy of a jigsaw puzzle. You see, when you do a jigsaw puzzle, you start with the edges. So your edges are your Chris Ray Gun, your Amazing Atheist, your Sargon of Akkad. Here you get claims about, why is there only diversity to white countries? Aren't feminists censoring free speech? Isn't it hypocritical for liberals to defend Islam? These questions are questions that imply answers I disagree with, but I could discuss these with someone and consider it a friendly discussion, not me slapping them down and educating them and arguing with them. I would happily talk to someone who thinks that white people are going to be a minority and this is a bad thing, and I wouldn't need to feel like, by dint of having that discussion, we are in any way genuinely opposing sides. So you've got your edges of the jigsaw. What do you need next? Well, you move in. Bernie Sanders is a terrible candidate because he caters to SJWs. In fact, every left-wing candidate is in principle okay, but they've all been bullied into politically correctness. Remember, they don't even agree with it. Nobody really agrees with these SJWs. They're just bullied betas and cucks. But the SJWs, they're trying to force people to be politically correct. They're trying to take away your video games. They're denying evil acts committed by Muslims. And at this point, we're already getting the terms Frankfurt School and cultural Marxism. And just below this, you start to see terms like Dindu, Chimpout, Shiboon, and We Was Kangs. These are all terms I've seen people say in weird contexts where I wouldn't expect to see racist rhetoric. People use these words in ways they'd never use nigger, which is weird because arguably all these words are worse than nigger, because they signify something much more real than the word nigger. Nigger has lost some of its meaning. It's still a bad word, but in a more nebulous way, and this is why it can be used by black people. But when you unpack these terms, they can't be used positively. Dindu refers to black teenagers who are shot dead by police and their weeping mothers profess he didn't do nothing, meaning he didn't do anything wrong. But this is contracted to he didn't do nothing. And then from that we get the racist slur Dindu. And then chimp out is comparing black people to chimps and decrying Black Lives Matter and as just a bunch of savages rioting. Sheboon is a way to shut down black female social justice warriors, and again this plays off connections to monkeys and also the idea that black women aren't attractive. And then We Was Kangs is mocking black people who try to take pride in their African history, and the implication of it is that there is nothing to be proud of in African history. So these terms are racist as fuck, but you don't have to go that far down the rabbit hole before you begin to see them. For my next level, I just want to focus on one channel called E::R. Now, you might not have seen this channel, but a lot of people have, and this channel stops a review and discusses for 5 minutes why are there so many Jews in Hollywood. It's supposed to be a joke. The idea is it's funny if you say a film has a problem, and then you cut to the IMDb page where you've highlighted every Jewish name, because the joke is being Jewish is a problem. At this level, in-jokes are really important. You might not realize why the reviewer just zoomed in on the guy's nose and said coincidence, but I do, and so do fascists. It's because, isn't it a coincidence that there are so many Jews? The word coincidence now functions as a dog whistle. And there's an obvious parallel here with the Plinkett reviews, wherein the review stops while Plinkett murders a woman. There's implied killing of women, and it's funny because it's weird, uncomfortable, and just seemingly random. But then fascists work out the formula. If you make a review that sort of makes good points, and then throw in a generally insincere tone, pepper it with a few jokes, and then you can make some of those jokes racist. And the reality is that now a video that has 500,000 views has 16,000 likes to 2,000 dislikes. And what's the top comment? I still don't know what this channel is, but I love it. And then we see in the comments, it's a gem appreciation channel. And gem, by the way, is alt-right terminology to refer to Jews. If you look through the comments, you see someone else say they want the plugin that will identify Jews for them. Then you get one saying this guy is edgy as fuck, but I like it. And that's the thing. It's the whole ironic edginess. And it goes all the way fucking down. Even at the Daily Shower and the Merchant Minute, the host refers to his anti-Semitic rants as edgy. Also, just as an aside, this ER guy negatively reviews Mad Max Fury Road because Mad Max isn't really a main character, and then he admits to having not seen any of the other Mad Max films, which of course also don't feature Mad Max as the main character. But you might be wondering, why is this edgy 4chan inspired movie reviewer so far down on my rabbit hole compared to actual political opinions about cultural Marxism and the Frankfurt School? The simple reason is that, and let me reiterate, he literally stops the review for 5 minutes to complain that there are too many Jews in Hollywood. And the explanation always comes back to, it's edgy. So it makes it sound like they're laughing at themselves. But they're not discrediting any of their own ideas. And they're making it much more difficult for others to discredit their ideas because it's so entrenched in bullshit. Even the Merchant Minute, which is something where if you're listening to it and agreeing with them, you're a fascist. But even then, you can't argue with them because it's fucking farcical. I've listened to every Merchant Minute out of morbid curiosity. And first of all, they're entertaining. Take, for example, this clip where the host of the show finds out that he has some black ancestry.
And now, the genetic data you've all been waiting for. As expected, I am predominantly of Brit-Bong blood, with a little French, German, and Southern European thrown in. This will surprise many of you, but it turns out I'm not Jewish. But 23andMe's Jewish CEO probably doctored the results to make sure you stupid goyim don't catch on to me. My non-white ancestry is as follows: 0.1% Native American, and 1.6%.
Black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all.
Of which 1.3% is West African and 0.3% is broadly sub-Saharan African. That probably equates to 1/64th, which I believe puts the birth of my mulatto ancestor at just before the Civil War, so that means one of my slave-owning ancestors fucking planned to upped. This probably means I can't get any more edgy alt-right waifus. For a while, this destroyed any reason I had for living, until I found a new purpose. I'm going to be the bliggity blackest black man I can be, literally blacker than Rachel Dolezal. Well, I'm off to go fuck some fat white women and attack a police officer. Bix nude, motherfuckers. For the rightstuff.biz, I'm Tyrone, and this has been the Merchant Minute. So I drove down to the hood to try to bond with my black brothers, and I was telling these guys, hey, I'm 1/64th black. That's 1.6% black, if you guys don't know fractions. I'm one of you. Please teach me your ways. And they started ooga-boogaying at me. I could only make out the words crack-a-ass and fuckboy, so I'm thinking, oh shit, these guys are talking about cracker asses and fucking boys.
Niggas is gay.
So I politely informed them that I realized I had come to the wrong place because I was not a homosexual and I just wanted to learn how to be black. Then they pulled knives on me. Just as I was about to ask them if this was due to my shirt being the wrong gang color, Guy Fieri drove up with classical music blaring from his stereo and they all ran off, visibly in pain from the complex melodies with no drum beats to which hoes could twerk. Guy Fieri said to me, "Those guys are a little too crispy to be your homies, don't you think?" And I told him about how Pole thinks I'm black now and I have to leave Whitelandia so the blood can be pure. Then Guy told me to shut the fuck up and get in the car because popping him in the oven was a two-man job because Seventh Son only made right-handed Daily Showa oven mitts. I guess I'm a white man again.
This type of content is incredible. On some level, it's fucking genius, because it perfectly plays up to all the edgy jokes about black people that get upvoted on Reddit. It's all the stuff that white suburban males laugh at. I've played this show to people, and they've all pretty much said the same thing. This is a bit weird. Is this guy serious? But then, they all crack a smile. And I crack a smile too. And isn't that insane? That we can have a show in the 21st century that repeatedly mentions killing Jews, gassing them and putting them in ovens. And at this point, I don't even know if the host of the show would actually commit genocide against Jews. You can tell he supports a white ethno-state, but how do you even argue with content like this? And again, this guy is full-on fascist. This isn't crypto-fascist anymore. But this guy, you know, we're not quite at his level yet. First of all, we have to stop by and see our good friend, Black Pigeon Speaks, a guy who made a popular and relatively well-received video on why women voting destroys Western civilization. It's hard to imagine anyone would have accepted these ideas without the anti-feminist rhetoric that paved the way. By constantly attacking women as being irrational and out to destroy Western civilization, which is an idea you can see in the beginnings way back with Sargon, you end up here. And a shocking number of people do end up here, and they support it when they see it. If you were to do a poll of how many people support a white ethno-state with one family, one vote, in Europe and the Americas and Australasia, I think you would see the numbers doubling, tripling, or quadrupling since 2000. Now, I think something you're likely to see is people will say, well, I made these videos about these right-wing points, but I was never saying that people should go full-on fascist. And that's fine, but you haven't argued against it. You've never told them that they shouldn't go off that cliff face. And the people who have said that have actually suffered because of it, because they've been attacked. And the second you challenge these fascist ideas, you are called an SJW. There are people who are not so far into this jigsaw, like Kraut and T, who, when they challenge the fascism in the center, the race realism and the attacks on degeneracy, they are called SJWs and shouted down. But the thing is, people didn't need to get here from those edge pieces of the jigsaw. They could have configured the jigsaw differently by throwing more nuance in there. I have plenty of those outside pieces in the jigsaw that is my ideology. I have plenty of the same pieces. But the way I have configured them and understood them in relation to other facts have changed the ideology that I've ended up with. You can be skeptical of Islam, but don't start believing there's a movement to destroy the white race. And these outside pieces are pointed to by channels like PewDiePie and H3 Productions, channels that are already fostering this idea that feminism is evil and that people are too easily offended and racially charged jokes are funny, or to think critically about racism and the way it manifests itself is wrong. These ideas are being spread by major channels, and then those broad ideas get reified in political anti-feminism and opposition to immigration, and a general anti-establishment anti-intellectualism. So nobody supports killing Jews because PewDiePie thought it was funny. But people laugh at PewDiePie's jokes, and then they see Jews getting offended. So they start to be convinced being offended by things is wrong. So they see Sargon make a video that offends feminists, and they say this must be good. And what does Sargon mention in another one of his videos? Cultural Marxism and the Frankfurt School, and the universities corrupting our kids. Geez, seems like there's a movement out there to really destroy white men in Western society. And I'll tell you what, this video that makes fun of Jews is pretty funny too, and it's really pointing out how there's some issues with Hindus in our society. Black Lives Matter is just a fucking chimp out. If only there was a solution. Maybe, ooh, this video could be a good shout. One family, one vote. Don't give women the right to vote. I like that idea. Just have a white ethno-state and get rid of all those people who, way back in those H3H3 and PewDiePie videos, I realised were the enemies. This anti-Semitic podcast is pretty funny. I'm going to learn about modern alt-right fascism from it. And it's just a joke. Ah, now let me post on this subreddit. PewDiePie is our guy. And ain't that the fucking truth?
Hey guys, I'm just adding this recording after the fact to let you know if you like this video. Obviously, let me know through liking it. And if you want to see more, subscribe. And I've been King Alfarazon, and something I've been trying to introduce is a bit of a catchphrase. I don't know if anyone's picked up on it yet, but I'm only trying to introduce it because I believe it, and that's, don't take my word for it. Check it out for yourself. Now, for the psalm. O Lord, do not rebuke me in your anger, or discipline me in your wrath. Be gracious to me, O Lord, for I am languishing. O Lord, heal me, for my bones are shaking with terror. My soul also is struck with terror, while you, O Lord, how long? Turn, O Lord, save my life, deliver me for the sake of your steadfast love. For in death there is no remembrance of you. In Sheol, who can give you praise? I am weary with my moaning. Every night I flood my bed with tears. I drench my couch with weeping. My eyes waste away because of grief. They grow weak because of all my foes. Depart from me, all you workers of evil, for the Lord has heard the sound of my weeping. The Lord has heard my supplication. The Lord accepts my prayer. All my enemies shall be ashamed and struck with terror. They shall turn back, and in a moment be put to shame. Amen.